Admiral Sarah Reeves had commanded the 7th Fleet through 3 wars, countless crises, and 2 decades of maintaining peace in the Pacific. At 54, her steel-gray hair matched the determination in her eyes as she stood on the bridge of the USS Leviathan, watching radar contacts descend through Earth's atmosphere like digital rain. Each blip represented an alien vessel larger than any human warship ever constructed. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Commander Jessica Torres reported from the tactical station, her voice maintaining professional calm despite the impossible readings on her screens. "We're tracking 347 hostiles establishing positions across the Pacific Theater, range from Midway to the Philippines. They're not conducting reconnaissance, they're building permanent installations." Reeves studied the holographic display that painted the Pacific in 3 dimensions of tactical data. Red markers indicated alien positions, blue showed her fleet deployments, and the expanding circles of engagement zones told a story no admiral wanted to read. The enemy held every advantage except one. They were in American waters. Her flagship, the USS Leviathan, represented the pinnacle of American naval engineering, a next-generation command vessel that combined the firepower of a battleship with the command capabilities needed to coordinate modern fleet operations. Around her, the 7th Fleet spread across 2 million square miles of Ocean 12 carrier battlegroups, nuclear attack submarines, guided missile destroyers, and marine expeditionary units, the most powerful naval force in human history, facing an enemy that had crossed interstellar space to reach Earth. The secure communication array crackled with a transmission from the Pentagon, encrypted through channels that could punch through nuclear warfare's electronic interference. General Patricia Harrison's voice carried the weight of command authority earned through 30 years of military service. "Admiral Reeves, this is Joint Chiefs. We need 72 hours to coordinate global defense systems and bring orbital platforms online. Initial estimates show the aliens deployed advanced forces while their main fleet holds position beyond the moon. Can the 7th Fleet buy us that time? 72 hours. 3 days to hold the Pacific against technologically superior forces while Earth prepared weapons that existed only in classified files." Reeves had commanded naval operations in 3 different theaters, coordinated multinational task forces, and planned contingencies for every conceivable threat. She'd never planned for this. General Harrison Reeves replied, her voice carrying across frequencies that connected every American military installation on Earth. "The 7th Fleet will hold the line. We've been defending American interests in the Pacific for 70 years. We don't quit now." She turned to address her staff officers who represented the finest naval minds America had produced through generations of professional military education. Captain James Mitchell, her surface warfare coordinator. Colonel Maria Santos commanding the 15th Marine Expeditionary Unit. Commander David Park, leading Submarine Squadron 7. Major Lisa Cross, Wing Commander for Carrier, Air Wing 5. Each officer had dedicated their career to mastering the art of naval warfare. None had expected to test that mastery against alien invaders. "Ladies, gentlemen," Reeves announced, studying faces that reflected her own determination. "We have our mission. 72 hours to save the world. Rules of engagement are simple. Nothing gets through our defensive perimeter. We are the shield between these aliens and everything we've sworn to protect." Captain Mitchell stepped forward, his uniform bearing ribbons from 3 combat deployments in command of the USS Constitution, a destroyer that carried the name of America's most famous frigate. "Ma'am, preliminary intelligence suggests alien technology operates on principles we don't understand. Standard tactics may be insufficient. Then we adapt." Captain, American naval forces have been adapting to new threats since 1775. Today we adapt to aliens. Reeves gestured toward the tactical display showing alien positions spreading across strategic islands like a malignant constellation. They're not just invading, they're establishing forward operating bases on American territory. Every island they occupy becomes a launching point for assault on the mainland. Colonel Santos, her marine utility is bearing the scars of combat in 3 different countries, studied the enemy deployments with the eye of someone who'd spent her career conducting amphibious assaults. "Ma'am, if they're building bases, they're planning extended operations. This isn't a raid, it's the opening phase of conquest." "Precisely, Colonel, which means we stop them here, or we fight them on American beaches." Commander Park, his submarine service insignia reflecting 20 years of silent patrols beneath the world's oceans, pointed to deep water contacts on the tactical display. Admiral Sonar is tracking massive underwater construction. They're building something on the ocean floor, multiple sites, coordinated construction. Reeves felt the cold certainty that came with understanding an enemy's strategy. The aliens weren't just establishing surface bases, they were creating underwater cities that could support indefinite operations, fortress positions that could coordinate attacks across the entire Pacific. "Major Cross, what's the status of our air wings?" Major Lisa Cross, her flight suit bearing patches from carrier operations across the globe, consulted her tactical display showing aircraft readiness across 12 carrier groups. "Ma'am, we have 240 fixed-wing aircraft operational, plus helicopters and support craft. full complement of FA-18 Super Hornets, F-35C Lightning IAs, and EA-18G Growlers for electronic warfare. Outstanding. Deploy standing patrols across all approach vectors. I want eyes on every alien movement. Reeves keyed her communication system to address the entire 7th Fleet, 50,000 sailors, Marines, aviators, and submariners who represented America's finest military traditions. All stations. This is Admiral Reeves. Alien forces have deployed advanced elements across the Pacific Theater with apparent intent to establish permanent bases on American territory. We have been tasked with preventing alien penetration of the Pacific defensive perimeter for 72 hours while global defense systems come online. She paused, letting the magnitude of their mission settle across frequencies that connected ships, scattered across 2 million square miles of ocean. This fleet has never surrendered to any enemy. We have maintained peace in the Pacific for 7 decades through strength, professionalism, and the willingness to fight when fighting was necessary. Today, fighting is necessary. The response came from every ship in the fleet, 50,000 voices united in the traditional naval acknowledgement. Captain James Mitchell had awakened before dawn to study intelligence reports that read like science fiction. Alien vessels that moved through water without creating wakes, energy weapons that could vaporize steel, technology that operated on principles unknown to human physics. Now, 6 hours into the 72-hour countdown, he stood on the bridge of the USS Constitution, watching those impossible vessels approach his battle group with mechanical precision. Sir, multiple contacts bearing 090, range 15,000 yards. Reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim, his tactical action officer, a Naval Academy graduate who'd earned her position through excellence in electronic warfare. Kim operated sensor systems that represented the cutting edge of American naval technology. Count 6 vessels, configuration unknown, speed increasing to 42 knots. Mitchell studied the approaching craft through high-powered binoculars, trying to reconcile what he was seeing with everything he'd learned about naval warfare. Alien vessels moved like liquid mercury across the ocean's surface, their hulls seeming to flow and shift as they approached. No visible propulsion, no exhaust signatures, no wake patterns. They simply glided across the water as if the laws of physics were suggestions rather than immutable principles. Weapon status? Mitchell inquired, his voice carrying the calm authority that had earned him command of one of America's most advanced destroyers. All weapons systems operational, sir, replied Lieutenant Commander Marcus Rodriguez. His weapons? Officer Rodriguez had served aboard destroyers for 12 years, managing everything from training exercises to combat operations in hostile waters. Forward and aft 5-inch guns loaded with guided projectiles. Vertical launch systems armed with Tomahawk cruise missiles and standard surface-to-air missiles. Close-in weapon systems ready for point defense. The Constitution represented the culmination of American destroyer-design advanced radar systems that could track hundreds of targets simultaneously. Weapons that could engage threats at ranges exceeding the horizon, and defensive systems designed to protect high-value assets from overwhelming attack against enemies that had mastered interstellar travel. Sir, Kim reported, her voice tight with confusion, the alien vessels are emitting some kind of scanning beam. It's penetrating our electronic countermeasures like they don't exist. Mitchell watched energy patterns dance across the alien hulls, creating light displays that hurt to observe directly. The craft were analyzing his ship with technology that rendered human stealth capabilities irrelevant. All stations, this is Constitution Actual, Mitchell announced across his ship's communication system. We have visual contact with alien vessels. This will be humanity's first naval engagement with extraterrestrial forces. Remember your training, trust your equipment, and make every shot count. The destroyer's crew responded with professional acknowledgement. 300 sailors who trained for this moment their entire careers, even though they'd never imagined the enemy would come from another star system. Range 2 targets, 12,000 yards and closing, sir. Main battery, acquire targets, fire for effect. The Constitution's forward 5-inch gun mount swiveled toward the lead alien vessel, its advanced fire control system calculating solutions for targets that moved unlike anything in its database. The gun fired with a sound like controlled thunder, sending a guided projectile down range at 3 times the speed of sound. Mitchell watched through his scope as the projectile struck the alien vessel, sent a mass and passed completely through as if the ship were made of mist. What the hell? Rodriguez breathed from his weapon station. Direct hit, no effect. The round went right through their hull like it wasn't there. But Mitchell's trained eye caught something the sensors missed. The alien vessel's perfect movement had become slightly erratic, as if the impact had disrupted some critical system. Whatever had happened, the craft was no longer moving with mechanical precision. Continuous fire, all weapons, Mitchell ordered. Whatever that did, we need to do more of it. The Constitution's weapons systems opened fire in coordinated salvos that demonstrated the devastating effectiveness of modern American naval gunnery. 5-inch main guns fired guided projectiles every 3 seconds. Close-in weapon systems added streams of 20mm shells. Missile launchers contributed harpoon, anti-ship missiles designed to sink enemy warships. Most ordnance passed harmlessly through the alien vessels as if they existed in parallel dimensions, but with each impact, the craft became more solid, more vulnerable to conventional weapons. Energy fields that had rendered them immune to physical damage flickered and weakened under sustained bombardment. Sir Kim called from her station. The aliens are returning fire. Energy beams lanced across the water with colors that had no names in human language. Where they struck the Constitution's armored hull, steel superheated and vaporized. Seawater flashed to steam. Electronic systems overloaded and failed, but the destroyer had been designed to absorb punishment that would sink lesser vessels. Damage control teams responded to each hit with trained efficiency, containing fires and maintaining combat capability through superior engineering and seamless crew coordination. Damage report. Mitchell called over the sound of alien weapons impacting his ship. Forward gun mount offline. Fires on decks 3 and 4, but damage control has them contained, reported Chief Petty Officer Williams, his damage control chief, a 20-year Navy veteran who'd kept ships fighting through everything from hurricanes to missile attacks. Sir, we're still in the fight. Mitchell felt pride in his ship and crew as American naval engineering proved its worth against alien technology. The Constitution could absorb punishment that would destroy most military vessels while maintaining her ability to fight back. Weapons. Status on main battery. AFT gun mount still operational, sir. Forward mount has structural damage but can be restored in 30 minutes. On his tactical display, Mitchell watched his continuous barrage finally overwhelm the lead alien. Vessels, defensive systems, energy fields collapsed completely, revealing a craft that followed conventional physics. His next salvo struck solid metal and exploded with devastating effect. The alien vessel shuddered, listed heavily to port, and plunged beneath the Pacific waves in a geyser of superheated steam and debris. Splash 1 bandit, Mitchell announced, across the fleet frequency. Confirmed kill on alien vessel. Continuous fire tactics appear to disrupt their defensive systems. Recommend all units adopt sustained bombardment procedures. Admiral Reeves' voice came through crystal clear. Outstanding work, Constitution, all fleet units. You heard the man. Make them solid, then sink them. But victory came at a cost. The remaining alien vessels had learned from their companions' destruction, adapting their tactics in real time. They spread out to minimize concentrated fire, began using terrain masking to complicate targeting solutions, and increase the intensity of their energy weapon attacks. Mitchell realized he was fighting an enemy that could learn and adapt faster than any human force. Traditional naval tactics assumed opponents with relatively fixed capabilities. These aliens treated every engagement as a learning exercise. Sir Rodriguez reported, his voice tight with concern. Remaining hostiles are coordinating their attacks. They're using some kind of distributed targeting system to overwhelm our point defenses. Mitchell watched alien energy beams converge on his ship from multiple directions, creating crossfire patterns that his defensive systems couldn't counter simultaneously. The Constitution shuddered under impacts that turned armor plating into molten slag all ahead flank. Evasive maneuvers. The destroyer's gas turbine engines roared to full power, pushing 9,000 tons of American naval engineering to speeds that strained every system. Mitchell used his ship's superior maneuverability to break alien targeting solutions while maintaining fire on enemy vessels. The engagement lasted 47 minutes. When it ended, 3 alien craft lay on the ocean floor, while 2 others retreated toward deep water. The Constitution remained afloat and fighting, though her sleek profile now bore the scars of humanity's first alien naval battle. Fleet Command, this is Constitution, Mitchell reported. Enemy force neutralized, 3 confirmed kills. 2 withdrew. Recommend immediate analysis of alien tactical adaptation capabilities. Copy, Constitution. Well done. Prepare for Phase 2 operations. Mitchell looked at his damaged ship and exhausted crew, understanding that this had been only the opening. Engagement. The aliens would return with better tactics, more ships, and complete knowledge of human naval capabilities. But they'd also learned something important. American naval forces could adapt to. 18 hours into the 72-hour countdown, the scope of alien construction became horrifyingly clear. They weren't just establishing surface bases, they were building massive underwater cities that rose from the Pacific floor like mechanical mountains. Colonel Maria Santos, commanding the 15th Marine Expeditionary Unit, studied the alien construct through her assault ship's periscope. The structure defied architectural logic, flowing curves and crystalline surfaces that pulsed with energy patterns visible even underwater. Intelligence estimated it was already 3 miles in diameter and growing. Marines, she addressed her assault force through the ship's communication system, looking out at faces that represented the finest amphibious warriors America had produced. We've got orders to take that platform and destroy whatever's controlling their Pacific operations. Her Marines had trained for amphibious assault their entire careers, storming beaches, securing airfields, establishing beachheads in hostile territory. But none had trained for assaulting an underwater city built by aliens using technology that violated known physics. Staff Sergeant Michael Rodriguez, Her most experienced NCO and a veteran of 3 combat deployments raised his hand. "Ma'am, how exactly do we assault something that's mostly underwater?" Santos had been wondering the same thing. Traditional marine tactics assumed terrestrial targets, beaches defended by conventional forces, cities built according to human architectural principles, enemies that used recognizable weapons and tactics. The alien platform challenged every assumption about amphibious warfare. "We adapt. Sergeant, Marines have been improvising since 1775. We don't stop now." She gestured toward tactical displays showing the platform's structure in 3 dimensions. "Intelligence believes this is a command center coordinating alien operations across the entire Pacific. Destroy it, and we disrupt their ability to coordinate attacks against the fleet." The platform's defensive systems had already demonstrated capabilities that redefined the concept of area denial. Energy weapons that could vaporize aircraft at ranges exceeding 50 miles, missiles that moved through water like living creatures, tracking targets with supernatural precision, point defense systems that destroyed incoming ordnance before it could detonate. "Ma'am," asked Corporal Jennifer Walsh, a combat engineer who'd spent 4 years learning to blow things up in creative ways, "what about their defenses?" "Our intelligence briefing showed weapons that can track individual bullets." Santos nodded grimly. Standard marine tactics relied on overwhelming firepower to suppress enemy defenses during amphibious assault against enemies that could destroy incoming fire with computer-guided precision. Traditional approaches would result in total casualties before landing. "We're going in fast and quiet. No preliminary bombardment, no air support. We hit them before they know we're coming." The assault force consisted of 8 landing craft, each carrying 30 Marines armed with weapons designed for close quarters combat. Advanced diving gear allowed underwater approach routes that conventional enemies couldn't predict or counter. "Listen up, Marines," Santos continued, studying faces that showed determination despite impossible odds. "That platform coordinates every alien operation in the Pacific. Our fleet is buying time for Earth's defense systems to come online. But if those aliens can coordinate their attacks, 72 hours won't be enough." She paused, meeting the eyes of Marines who'd volunteered to serve, knowing that military service meant facing exactly these kinds of impossible missions. "We're going to give our Navy the advantage they need. That platform goes down, and alien coordination goes with it." The assault craft approached the alien platform submerged, using stealth technology that rendered them invisible to conventional sonar. Santos watched alien defensive systems track air and surface threats while completely ignoring underwater approaches. First tactical advantage to American ingenuity. 30 seconds to landing zone, the pilot reported through a headset. Santos checked her equipment one final time. M4A1 carbine with underwater modifications. Combat diving gear rated for depths exceeding 200 feet. Explosives package designed to destroy hardened targets. Every piece of equipment tested and refined through decades of Marine Corps experience. "Marines, remember why we're here," she announced as the landing craft prepared to surface. "That platform represents every alien operation in the Pacific. Take it down, and we save our fleet." The craft breached the surface in perfect synchronization, Marines pouring out with weapons ready. They found themselves on landing platforms that seemed designed for function rather than aesthetics. Metal surfaces covered with alien machinery that hummed with barely contained energy. But something was wrong. The landing platforms were empty. No alien defenders, no automated weapons, no response to their assault. "Too easy," Rodriguez muttered, sweeping the area with his carbine. "This feels like a trap," Santos agreed. But Marines didn't have the luxury of tactical hesitation. "Spread out and advance. First squad secures the perimeter. Second squad finds us a way inside. Third squad maintains rear security." Her Marines moved with practiced efficiency across terrain that challenged every assumption about architecture. Surfaces that looked solid proved to be energy fields. Corridors led in directions that didn't match their compass readings. Gravity seemed to operate according to alien physics that made human spatial reasoning irrelevant. But Marines adapted. They always adapted. "Colonel," called Sergeant Patricia Kim from her position near what appeared to be an entrance, "I've found a way in. But you need to see this." Santos approached Kim's position and looked through the opening into the alien structure's interior. What she saw defied description: vast spaces that seemed larger inside than the platforms. External dimensions could accommodate, filled with machinery that operated on principles no human engineer had conceived. "Jesus," Rodriguez breathed beside her. "How is that even possible?" "Doesn't matter how it's possible," Santos replied. "Matters how we destroy it." The Marines entered the alien structure single file, weapons ready for contact that never came. Corridors curved in impossible directions, leading them deeper into a complex that seemed designed to confuse human navigation. But Santos had spent 20 years learning to operate in hostile territory, and she'd developed an instinct for finding critical targets. This way, she directed, following corridors that led toward the structure's center. "Whatever controls this thing will be centrally Located. The command center, when they found it, was both alien and strangely familiar. Control surfaces that flowed like liquid mercury, displays showing information in languages no human had seen, but an arrangement that suggested coordination and command functions. Walsh, can you rig this place to blow up? Corporal Walsh studied the alien technology with the professional eye of someone who'd spent years learning to destroy hardened targets. Ma'am, I can't understand that tech, but I understand structural engineering. Give me 30 minutes and enough C4, and this place becomes a crater. You've got 20 minutes and whatever explosives we brought. Santos positioned her Marines in defensive positions while Walsh worked, understanding that aliens would eventually respond to their presence. The platform's passive response to their assault suggested either overconfidence or a trap that hadn't yet been sprung, that she was betting on the trap. Colonel Rodriguez called from his security position. We've got movement, multiple contacts, approaching from all directions. Santos looked through her scope at alien figures that moved with liquid grace through their own corridors. Tall, elongated forms wearing equipment that seemed to flow and shift with their movements. They carried weapons that crackled with energy, approaching with tactical precision that suggested professional military training. Asterisk Marines, we've got company. Make them pay for every meter. The battle for the alien command center lasted 6 hours and demonstrated why Marine Corps training emphasized adaptability above all else. Alien defenders used technology that rendered cover irrelevant and weapons that could punch through any armor. But they hadn't planned for Marines who'd learned to fight in urban environments where every assumption about warfare was constantly challenged. Santos led her Marines through battles that defied tactical logic, using human unpredictability to counter alien technological advantages. When energy weapons made cover useless, Marines used movement and aggression. When alien armor proved impervious to small arms fire, Marines used explosives and concentrated fire. Walsh, how much longer? 2 minutes, ma'am. But these aliens really don't want us to finish. Energy beams cracked overhead as alien defenders intensified their assault, trying to prevent Marines from completing their mission. Santos watched her casualty count climb while Marines maintained their positions through determination and professional competence. Rodriguez, status report. 60% casualties, ma'am. But we're still holding the perimeter. Santos felt pride in her Marines as they demonstrated the warrior spirit that had made the Marine Corps legendary. Facing impossible odds against technologically superior enemies, they continued fighting because the mission required it. Walsh, time, 30 seconds. Colonel, all Marines, prepare for emergency extraction. We've got 30 seconds to get clear. Her Marines moved with practiced efficiency toward extraction points, carrying wounded comrades and maintaining suppressive fire against alien defenders who seemed to understand that their command center was about to be destroyed. The explosion, when it came, was visible from orbit. The alien platform simply disintegrated, its energy systems overloading in a chain reaction that created a mushroom cloud above the Pacific Ocean. Admiral Reeves, this is Santos, she reported from her extraction craft, looking back at the debris. A field that had been an alien command center. Platform destroyed. Alien coordination should be significantly disrupted. Outstanding work, Colonel. Casualty report. Santos looked around at her Marines. Dirty, bloodied, but victorious. 70% casualties, ma'am. But the mission is complete. Copy that, Colonel. Your sacrifice won't be forgotten. Asterisk 36 hours into the countdown. Commander David Park commanded the USS Wyoming through depths that had never hosted warfare between species from different star systems. His nuclear attack submarine represented the pinnacle of underwater warfare technology, advanced sonar systems, nuclear-tipped torpedoes, and stealth capabilities that made him invisible to surface vessels. Against enemies that had mastered faster-than-light travel. Sonar, report contact status. Park ordered from his submarine's control room, surrounded by displays that painted a three-dimensional picture of underwater threats. Sir, we have multiple large contacts bearing 090 through 1, reported Petty Officer First Class Jennifer Martinez, his sonar operator, a specialist who'd spent 8 years learning to interpret acoustic signatures from every known naval vessel on Earth. Range approximately 20,000 yards. Configuration unknown, but they're big. Estimate displacement of at least 50 tons each. Park studied the sonar display showing contacts that dwarfed any submarine ever built. The alien vessels moved through deep water with silence that challenged his crew's ability to track them, using propulsion systems that created no acoustic signature. Assessment based on their movement patterns and formation. They appear to be capital ships, possibly command vessels or heavy attack platforms. Through his periscope, Park could see the surface battle raging above, destroyer groups engaging alien fighters while carrier aircraft provided air support. But the real threat was here, beneath the waves, where alien dreadnoughts prepared to surface and devastate the 7th Fleet with weapons that could level cities. Weapons, load tubes 1 through 4 with Mark 48 ADCAP torpedoes, Park ordered. Set for maximum yield, active guidance. Aye, sir. Loading tubes 1 through 4 with Mark 48 ADCAP, replied Lieutenant Commander Sarah Johnson, his weapons officer. The The torpedoes represented the most advanced underwater weapons America had ever built, guided by sonar systems that could track targets in the deepest ocean, armed with warheads that could crack the hull of any submarine. Against alien technology that operated on unknown principles, Sir Martinez called from her sonar station, "The large contacts are beginning to ascend. Estimate they'll reach attack depth in 15 minutes. Park calculated rapidly. Once the alien capital ships reached attacking position, they could engage surface vessels with weapons that had already demonstrated the ability to vaporize destroyers with single shots. The Wyoming was the only submarine in position to intercept them. One nuclear attack submarine against alien dreadnoughts that could reshape the Pacific theater. Plot firing solution on the lead contact. We take the biggest target first. The Wyoming's fire control system worked to calculate torpedo attack angles against targets that moved unlike any submarine in its database. Alien vessels that seemed to glide through water without regard for conventional hydrodynamics, following courses that defied tactical prediction. Firing solution plotted, sir. Ready to fire on your order. Park studied the tactical display one final time, understanding that this engagement would either cripple alien operations or reveal his submarine's position to enemies that could destroy him before he could reload. Fire 1. Fire 2. The torpedoes left their tubes with barely audible acoustic signatures. Their nuclear warheads guided by active sonar that painted alien targets with invisible sound waves. Park watched their progress on his display as advanced guidance systems closed distance with enemies that had traveled between stars. Time to impact 3 minutes, sir. Park counted seconds while his torpedoes approached targets that represented the alien fleet's heavy assault capability. If conventional warheads could penetrate alien defenses, the Wyoming could eliminate multiple capital ships before they reached attack position. If not, his submarine would face retaliation from weapons that could boil oceans. The first torpedo struck its target with explosive force that lit up sonar displays across the Pacific. When the acoustic signature cleared, one of the alien capital ships had simply vanished, not damaged, but completely vaporized by nuclear forces that exceeded alien defensive capabilities. Direct hit, Martinez called from her station. Target destroyed, but the second torpedo never reached its target. Alien point defense systems had analyzed human nuclear weapons, developing countermeasures that intercepted the warhead before detonation. Park watched the torpedo's acoustic signature disappear as alien technology neutralized America's most powerful underwater weapon. Missed, Johnson reported grimly. Their defenses adapted to our guidance system. Park realized he was facing an enemy that could learn and counter human weapons after single exposure. Traditional submarine tactics relied on surprise and overwhelming firepower. Against aliens that adapted in real time, conventional approaches were suicide, but suicide might be the most effective option available. All ahead, flank. Take us to the surface. His crew stared at him with expressions that mixed understanding with disbelief. Park was ordering their submarine to surface in the middle of a battle zone, exposing them to alien weapons that could destroy them instantly. Sir Johnson asked quietly, "We're going to ram the largest target. Full nuclear detonation on impact." The control room fell silent as Park's crew understood he was ordering their deaths. The Wyoming carried a nuclear reactor that could be overloaded to create an explosion visible from space, taking his submarine, his crew, and any alien vessel within 5 miles. "All hands, this is the captain," Park announced through the submarine's communication system. "We're making a torpedo run on the alien flagship. Our reactor will be set for overload on impact. This will stop their assault on our surface ships." He paused, looking around at faces that showed fear mixed with determination. Submariners who'd volunteered to serve, knowing that their duty might require exactly this kind of sacrifice. For America, for the fleet, for Earth. The Wyoming surfaced in a fountain of spray and foam, her nuclear reactor already overloading as Park aimed her bow directly at the largest alien vessel. Emergency klaxons wailed throughout the submarine as systems exceeded design limitations. All ahead, emergency, collision course. The submarine accelerated to ramming speed, her nuclear reactor approaching critical overload while her crew maintained battle stations for the final time. Park watched the alien capital ship grow larger in his periscope, noting defensive systems that were tracking his approach but couldn't stop a submarine traveling at 40 knots toward collision. 30 seconds to impact. Park keyed his radio one final time. "Fleet Command, this is Wyoming. We're taking one of them with us. Continue the mission." The collision and subsequent nuclear detonation created a fireball that was visible from orbit, destroying both the Wyoming and the alien flagship in an explosion that sent radioactive debris across miles of ocean. When the blast cleared, sonar displays showed empty water where 2 capital ships had been fighting. Admiral Reeves' voice came across all fleet frequencies. "USS Wyoming, fair winds and following seas. Your sacrifice saved the fleet." With 12 hours remaining until global defense systems came online, Major Lisa Cross prepared for what everyone understood would be the final engagement. Her FA-18 Super Hornet was one of 8 aircraft still operational from Carrier Air Wing 5. Facing an alien air assault that numbered in the hundreds, the mathematics was simple and hopeless. All aircraft, this is Cross, she transmitted to her remaining pilots. Watching radar contacts swarm toward their position like angry hornets. We've got bogies inbound from multiple vectors. This is our last dance, people. Make it count. Her radar screen painted a picture of overwhelming odds that would have broken lesser pilots. Alien fighters that moved through atmosphere like liquid energy, bombers that could devastate carrier groups with single attack runs, and command ships that coordinated attacks with precision no human formation could match. 8 American pilots against the final alien assault on the 7th Fleet. Remember your training, Cross transmitted, checking her weapons systems one final time. We're not just fighting for the fleet, we're fighting for time. 12 more hours, and Earth's orbital defenses come online. Her Super Hornet carried the latest American air-to-air missiles AIM-120A armors with guidance systems refined through decades of aerospace engineering. AIM-9X sidewinders with infrared seekers that could track targets through any countermeasures, and a 20mm M61 Vulcan cannon loaded with depleted uranium rounds. Against alien aircraft that had crossed interstellar space to reach Earth, the engagement began at maximum missile range, with Cross leading her formation in coordinated attacks. That demonstrated why American pilots were considered the finest in the world. Her AMRAAMs streaked toward alien fighters, with guidance systems that painted targets with invisible radar beams. But alien technology proved adaptive even under combat conditions. After the first wave of missiles found their marks, alien defensive systems began intercepting incoming ordnance with point defense weapons that operated faster than human reflexes. Splash to bandits. Cross reported as her missiles eliminated alien fighters in brilliant explosions that lit up the afternoon sky. Switching to guns for close-range engagement, her remaining pilots acknowledged, following Cross into the merge, where American pilot training and aircraft design would face the ultimate test against extraterrestrial technology. The dogfight that followed would be studied in military academies for generations. Assuming humanity survived to build those academies, American pilots, outnumbered 50-1, used superior tactics and desperate courage to delay alien air forces from reaching the fleet. Cross pulled her Super Hornet into a vertical climb that should have been impossible at her altitude, using thrust vectoring and pure piloting skill to evade alien energy weapons that turned atmosphere to plasma. Her Vulcan cannon found targets with precision that validated 20 years of air combat training. Fox 2. She called as a Sidewinder missile tracked an alien fighter's energy signature. Its infrared seeker locked onto propulsion systems that operated on principles unknown to human physics. The explosion confirmed that alien technology, however advanced, remained vulnerable to weapons guided by heat and determination. But the numbers were insurmountable. Cross watched her wingman disappear one by one under alien fire that adapted to every American tactic within minutes of encountering it. Lieutenant Rodriguez vanished in a flash of energy that vaporized his aircraft instantly. Captain Morrison's FA-18 broke apart under sustained beam weapons that cut through titanium like paper. When Cross's fuel gauge showed empty, she was the only pilot still flying. Admiral Reeves, this is Cross, she transmitted, looking down at the burning remains of the 7th Fleet while her engine flamed out from fuel starvation. Winchester on ammo, bingo on fuel. It's been an honor serving with this fleet. Copied that, Major. Thank you for the time you bought us. Cross looked at her instrument panel showing system failures across every critical component. Her aircraft was dead in the air, falling toward the Pacific Ocean from 30,000 feet. She could eject and hope for rescue. That probably wouldn't come. Or she could make her last minutes count for something meaningful. She looked up at the alien command ship coordinating the final assault on Admiral Reeves' remaining vessels. Not today, she said quietly, aiming her dead aircraft at the center of alien operations. Cross used her aircraft's remaining momentum to guide her Super Hornet toward the alien command vessel. Using gravitational energy to achieve impact velocity that would maximize damage, her aircraft struck the command ship's superstructure at terminal velocity, creating an explosion that wasn't nuclear but was visible for miles. The alien command vessel, struck by 18 tons of American aerospace engineering traveling at maximum speed, listed heavily and began sinking toward the Pacific depths. This is Admiral Reeves to all remaining units. Major Cross has eliminated alien command and control. Continue the mission. Admiral Sarah Reeves stood on her flagship's burning bridge as orbital weapons platforms came online. 12,000 miles above Earth, the global defense grid that had taken 72 hours to coordinate and charge now painted the Pacific with beams of directed energy that made human nuclear weapons look primitive by comparison. That her flagship, the USS Leviathan, bore the scars of 3 days of continuous combat. Half her bridge crew was dead or wounded. Emergency lighting cast everything in hellish red. The smell of burning electronics mixed with smoke from fires that had been contained but not extinguished, but they had held the line. Admiral, Lieutenant Torres reported from her damaged communication station. Blood seeping through bandages on her left arm, I'm receiving surrender transmissions from remaining alien forces. They're requesting immediate ceasefire. Reeves looked out through her bridge windows at the Pacific Ocean, now littered with the wreckage of 2 fleets. Burning oil slicks stretched to the horizon. Debris fields marked the final resting places of ships that had served with honor for decades. The water itself seemed to mourn the cost of humanity's first interstellar war. The 7th Fleet, her fleet had been almost completely destroyed in the 72-hour battle. Of the 50 ships that had begun the engagement, only 7 remained operational. Her casualty reports showed numbers that would haunt her for the rest of her life: 34,000 dead, 12,000 wounded. Entire ships' companies lost to alien weapons that turned steel to vapor. But Earth was safe. "Patch me through to all remaining ships," Reeves ordered, her voice carrying across frequencies that connected vessels, held together by emergency repairs and the determination of their crews. "All stations, this is Admiral Reeves. Mission accomplished. We have held the Pacific for 72 hours as ordered. Global defense systems are now online and engaging alien forces throughout the solar system." She paused, looking around her damaged bridge at officers who had proven that American naval traditions could survive any test. "The 7th Fleet has upheld its duty. The Pacific belongs to America." The response came from every ship still afloat, transmitted by crews who had survived the impossible Huya, as orbital weapons continued destroying the retreating alien fleet with precision that redefined space warfare. Reeves thought about the price of victory. The USS Constitution, crippled but still fighting after Captain Mitchell's crew had proven that destroyers could engage alien technology and win. The 15th Marine Expeditionary Unit, reduced to 30% strength after Colonel Santos had led the assault that crippled alien coordination. The USS Wyoming, whose sacrifice had eliminated alien capital ships at the cost of every soul aboard. Major Cross's final transmission still echoed in her mind. It's been an honor serving with this fleet. The honor had been hers, commanding warriors who understood that some things were worth dying for. "Communications. Send this message to Washington," Reeves ordered, watching as alien vessels fled toward deep space under the devastating fire of orbital platforms. "The 7th Fleet held for 72 hours as ordered. Recommend immediate reconstruction of Pacific defenses. The galaxy is bigger than we thought, and we're going to need a bigger navy." Her communication officer, working with equipment that had been repaired 3 times during the battle, transmitted the message that would reshape American military policy for generations to come. Message sent. Admiral, Washington acknowledges and requests full after-action report. Reeves nodded, already composing the report that would explain how American naval forces had achieved the impossible. Superior training had overcome technological disadvantage. Tactical innovation had countered alien adaptability. And above all, the warrior spirit that defined American military service had proven stronger than any alien technology. Admiral Torres called from her station. "Orbital Command reports complete elimination of alien forces throughout the solar system. Enemy fleet is in full retreat." Reeves allowed herself a moment of satisfaction as she watched the last alien contacts disappear from radar screens that had tracked humanity's first interstellar war. The aliens had come expecting to conquer a primitive planet. Instead, they had encountered American military power coordinated across global defense networks that had been planned for decades. Asterisk. "All units, stand down from general quarters. Commence damage assessment and casualty reporting." But even as her fleet began the grim task of counting their losses, Reeves understood that this victory had purchased something beyond measure. Time for humanity to prepare for future threats that would certainly come. The aliens had underestimated human military capability, but they would not make that mistake again. When they returned, and intelligence suggested they would return, they would face an Earth that had learned the lessons of interstellar warfare. "Admiral," called Commander Patricia Hayes, her operations officer, "we're receiving priority transmission from Pacific Fleet Command. Put it through." Admiral William Harrison's voice filled the bridge. Transmitted from Pearl Harbor through communication systems that had been hardened against alien electronic warfare. "Sarah, this is Bill. Preliminary reports suggest you and your people performed a miracle out there, sir. We did our job. The Pacific held at tremendous cost. Casualty reports are significant." Reeves looked around her bridge at officers, who bore the physical and emotional scars of 3 days of impossible combat. "Sir, every sailor, marine, aviator, and submariner in this fleet understood what we were fighting for. They gave everything because the mission required it. Understood. History will remember what the 7th Fleet accomplished. You bought Earth the time it needed to survive." As the communication ended, Reeves walked to her bridge windows and looked out at the Pacific Ocean. Somewhere beneath those waves lay the USS Wyoming, the USS Constitution, and dozens of other ships whose crews had chosen duty over survival. The water would be their eternal resting place, but their sacrifice would live on in the freedom they had preserved. Admiral Torres reported, "Damage control teams are requesting guidance on ship reconstruction priorities. Focus on life support and navigation. We're taking our people home." The journey back to Pearl Harbor took 18 hours, with damaged ships moving in convoy formation. while rescue vessels searched for survivors in the vast debris fields that marked the Pacific battlefield. Every hour brought new casualty reports, but also stories of heroism that would inspire future generations of American warriors. Chief Petty Officer Williams, who had kept the Constitution's damage control systems operational despite alien energy weapons that had vaporized entire compartments. Corporal Walsh, whose explosive expertise had destroyed the alien command center while under continuous fire. Petty Officer Martinez, whose sonar skills had tracked alien submarines through depths where conventional detection was impossible. Heroes who had proven that American military excellence was measured not by technology alone but by the courage of those who wielded it. Pearl Harbor had not seen fleet casualties on this scale since December 7, 1941. As damaged ships limped into port, the scope of the 7th Fleet's sacrifice became visible to a nation that was still learning what interstellar warfare meant. Admiral Reeves stood on the pier watching her surviving ships dock, each vessel bearing scars that told stories of impossible courage. The USS Leviathan's superstructure showed where alien energy weapons had carved through steel like a blowtorch through paper. Destroyers listed heavily from structural damage that would have sunk lesser vessels. Carriers showed empty flight decks, where squadrons had launched knowing they would never return, but they had held the line. Admiral Reeves, a young officer, approached, his uniform bearing the insignia of Pacific Fleet Intelligence. "Sir, I'm Lieutenant Commander Foster. I've been tasked with conducting preliminary interviews for the after-action report." Reeves studied the young officer, noting the expression of someone who was trying to understand how 8 aircraft had delayed an alien air armada for 6 hours, or how a single submarine had eliminated multiple capital ships through ramming attack. "Commander, what specifically do you need to know?" "Ma'am, intelligence is trying to understand how conventional human technology achieved victory against demonstrably superior alien capabilities. The physics don't seem to add up." Reeves smiled, thinking about Captain Mitchell's decision to use continuous fire tactics against enemies that adapted to conventional weapons. Colonel Santos leading Marines through alien architecture that defied spatial reasoning. Commander Parks sacrificing his submarine to eliminate threats that could have devastated the surface fleet. "Commander, you're asking the wrong question. The physics were irrelevant. What mattered was the people operating the equipment." "I don't understand, Admiral." "The aliens studied our weapons, our tactics, our technology. They calculated that their superiority was sufficient to overcome any resistance we could mount. But they made one critical error in their analysis." Reeves gestured toward the damaged ships around them, vessels that had absorbed punishment that should have destroyed them, while continuing to fight with effectiveness that increased as casualties mounted. "They forgot to factor in the warrior, the spirit of people who understand what they're protecting." Foster took notes, but his expression suggested he was still struggling to understand how human determination could overcome technological disadvantage measured in centuries of development. "Admiral, how do we quantify that for future defensive planning?" "You don't quantify it, Commander. You trust it, you train it, you honor it, and when the time comes, you let it loose against anyone foolish enough to threaten American freedom." The young officer left with more questions than answers, but Reeves knew that understanding would come with experience. The next generation of military leaders would grow up knowing that humanity was not alone in the universe, and that survival required both advanced technology and the warriors capable of using it effectively. "Admiral Reeves." Another voice called her attention. She turned to see Captain Mitchell approaching, his arm in a sling but his bearing still reflecting the pride of a destroyer captain who had proven that American naval gunnery could overcome alien technology. "Captain, how's your ship?" 6 months in dry dock, minimum, but she'll fight again. "And Admiral, my crew is already asking when they can re-enlist." Reeves felt pride in the tradition that created sailors who viewed service as honor rather than obligation. "What about you, Captain? Ready for another command?" Mitchell looked out at Pearl Harbor, where construction crews were already beginning repairs that would restore the 7th Fleet to full strength. "Ma'am, after the last 3 days, I can't imagine doing anything else. Someone has to be ready. For the next time there will be a next time." "Yes, ma'am. The aliens learned as much about us as we learned about them. They'll be back with better technology, better tactics, and complete understanding of human capabilities." Reeves nodded, understanding that the Battle of the Pacific had been humanity's graduation exam in interstellar warfare. They had passed, but future tests would be even more challenging. "Captain, what's your assessment of our readiness for the next engagement?" Mitchell considered the question with the tactical mind that had made him one of America's finest naval officers. "Admiral, we proved that human adaptability can overcome technological disadvantage. But next time, we need to be the ones with technological advantage. Recommendations. Immediate reverse engineering of every piece of alien technology we captured. Integration of their energy weapons with our delivery systems. And recruitment. Drives that emphasize what military service really means." Reeves looked around Pearl Harbor at the organized chaos of repair operations, supply deliveries, and personnel transfers that would restore American naval power in the Pacific. Shipyards worked around the clock. Recruitment stations reported record applications from young Americans who wanted to serve after seeing what their military could accomplish. "Captain, I believe we'll be ready." "Yes, ma'am. Americans are always ready when it matters." Arlington National Cemetery had hosted many solemn ceremonies, but none quite like the memorial service for those who had given their lives in humanity's first interstellar war. Admiral Reeves stood before a crowd that included families from across America, representatives from allied nations, and senior military leaders who understood that they were honoring heroes who had saved the human species. The memorial wall behind her bore 34,000 named sailors, Marines, aviators, and submariners who had chosen duty over survival when Earth needed them most. Each name represented a story of courage that would inspire future generations of American warriors. "We gather today," Reeves began, her voice carrying across the assembled crowd, "to honor those who gave their lives during the 72 hours that saved Earth. They faced an enemy with technology we couldn't understand, using weapons we couldn't match, conducting warfare on a scale we'd never imagined." She paused, looking out at faces that showed grief mixed with pride, as families mourned their losses while understanding that those sacrifices had preserved human freedom. The alien empire had conquered every civilization they encountered. Their analysts calculated that humanity would surrender within hours of first contact, as every other species had done. They studied our weapons, our tactics, our military capabilities, and concluded that resistance was futile. Behind her, the American flag flew at full staff, its stars and stripes illuminated by afternoon sunlight that seemed appropriate for honoring those who had died defending what that flag represented. But they made one fatal error in their analysis. They studied everything about human military capability except the most important element, the human spirit. In the front row, she could see Captain Mitchell's parents, who had raised a son who chose to command a destroyer in humanity's darkest hour, Colonel Santos's husband, who had married a Marine who understood that service meant sacrifice, the families of the USS Wyoming's crew, who had watched their loved ones volunteer for suicide missions because the fleet needed time. Your sons and daughters, husbands and wives, fathers and mothers, demonstrated something the aliens had never encountered in their conquest of a dozen worlds. Warriors who fight harder as the odds get worse. She gestured toward the memorial wall, where names were arranged by service and unit, creating a permanent record of American heroism that would endure for centuries. Captain James Mitchell and the crew of the USS Constitution proved that American naval gunnery could overcome any alien technology. Colonel Maria Santos and the 15th Marine Expeditionary Unit showed that Marines could assault alien strongholds and emerge victorious. Commander David Park and the crew of the USS Wyoming demonstrated that American submariners would sacrifice everything to protect their comrades. The crowd listened in silence, broken only by the sound of wind through the cemetery's trees and the distant noise of aircraft from Reagan National Airport. Sounds of a civilization that continued to exist because 34,000 Americans had been willing to die for it. Major Lisa Cross and the pilots of Carrier Air Wing 5 flew into odds that should have been impossible, buying time that allowed Earth's defense systems to come online. They fought with skill that honored decades of American aviation excellence, and they died with honor that validated every tradition of military service. Reeves paused, thinking about the young sailors, Marines, aviators, and submariners who were already beginning training that would prepare them for humanity's next interstellar conflict. The Battle of the Pacific lasted 72 hours. In that time, the men and women we honor today proved that freedom defended by free people is the most powerful force in any galaxy. They showed an alien empire that some things are worth dying for, and some people cannot be conquered. As the ceremony concluded with the playing of taps by a Marine bugler whose notes carried across the cemetery, Reeves remained at the memorial, while reading names she had memorized during the sleepless nights that followed the battle. Each name represented not just a casualty statistic, but a story of an American who had chosen service knowing that military duty meant facing exactly these kinds of impossible odds. They had answered the call not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. "Admiral," a young voice called her attention. She turned to see a midshipman from the Naval Academy, her uniform crisp with the pride of someone who had chosen military service after understanding what it truly meant. "Yes, midshipman, ma'am. I wanted to thank you for leading them, for showing us what naval service means." Reeves looked at the young woman, barely 19 years old, but already committed to defending a nation that had proven it could stand against any threat from any world. "Midshipman, the honor was mine. I had the privilege of commanding the finest warriors any nation has ever produced. Admiral, when the aliens come back, and intelligence says they will we be ready?" Reeves smiled, thinking about the shipyards working around the clock to build vessels that incorporated alien technology with American naval doctrine, the training programs that emphasized adaptability and innovation, the recruitment drives that attracted young Americans who wanted to serve after seeing what their military could accomplish. "Midshipmen, we'll be ready, and when they come they'll face not just the 7th Fleet, but the entire American military, supported by allies who understand what's at stake." The young midshipman saluted with precision that would have made her instructors proud. "Ma'am, we won't let them down." "No," Reeves agreed, looking up at the American flag flying above the memorial to 34,000 heroes. "I don't believe you will." 10 years after the Battle of the Pacific, Admiral Sarah Reeves stood on the bridge of the USS Leviathan II, watching construction crews put finishing touches on orbital defense. Platform 7, the new Leviathan, was 3 times larger than her predecessor, armed with energy weapons, reverse-engineered from alien technology and protected by shields that could deflect anything short of nuclear attack around her. The Solar Defense Fleet maintained patrol routes that extended from Earth orbit to the asteroid belt. Humanity had learned the lessons of interstellar warfare and prepared accordingly, Admiral reported, her tactical officer. Lieutenant Commander Torres, the same officer who had served on the original Leviathan's bridge during humanity's desperate 72 hours. Deep space sensors are detecting artificial objects entering the outer solar system. Reeves felt the familiar calm that came with facing known challenges. Configuration: unknown, ma'am. But they're broadcasting the same communication protocols the invasion fleet used 10 years ago. Fleet status: all vessels report ready for immediate action. Orbital platforms are charged and standing by. Marine assault units are prepared for boarding operations. Reeves looked out at a defensive network that spanned the solar system, orbital fortresses that could destroy capital ships, patrol craft that incorporated the best of human and alien technology, and most importantly, crews that had been trained by veterans of humanity's first interstellar war. "Open a channel to the approaching vessels." "Channel open, Admiral." "Unidentified vessels. This is Admiral Sarah Reeves, commanding the Solar Defense Fleet. You are entering territory defended by the United States Space Force and allied powers. State your intentions immediately." The response came in perfect English, transmitted across space by the same alien species that had attempted to conquer Earth a decade earlier. "Admiral Reeves, this is Fleet Commander Z9 of the Hegemony Diplomatic Corps. We request permission to approach Earth for ... negotiations." Reeves smiled, understanding that the word diplomatic had not appeared in alien transmissions 10 years ago. The Battle of the Pacific had taught the galaxy that humanity was not another species to be conquered, but a civilization that had earned respect through superior warfare. "Fleet Commander, you may approach to a distance of 1 million kilometers. Be advised that any hostile action will result in the immediate destruction of your fleet." "Understood, Admiral. We come in peace." Reeves turned to her bridge crew officers, who represented the finest traditions of American military service, trained in warfare that spanned multiple star systems, battle stations. "Diplomatic or not, we maintain readiness." As alien vessels approached Earth under the watchful eyes of defenses that had been built with the blood of 34,000 heroes, Reeves thought about the young men and women who had proven that freedom defended by free people could stand against any threat from any world. The galaxy had learned what Americans had always known: some things were worth fighting for, no matter the odds. And Americans never quit defending what mattered. The USS Wyoming Memorial Space Station maintained its orbit above Earth, a permanent monument to submarine crews who had chosen mission success over survival. The Colonel Santos training facility produced Marines who understood that adaptability was more important than technology. The Mitchell Naval Academy graduated officers who knew that leadership meant facing impossible odds with professional competence. And somewhere in deep space, alien intelligence services updated their databases with information that would keep Earth safe for generations. Sol system defended by Americans. Approach only with peaceful intentions. The 72 hours that saved humanity had become the foundation of Earth's stellar empire. Freedom, once established by warriors who understood its value, had proven that it could defend itself against any threat from any world. The last stand of the 7th Fleet had become the first chapter of humanity's greatest story.
Welcome, traveler. We're glad you're here. Every story you hear is made with care and passion. If you enjoy it, please like, subscribe, and check out the other adventures waiting for you on our channel. Your support means the world. Thank you. We hope you enjoy the story.
Humanity Galactic Frontiers, all rights reserved. This video and its contents are protected under international copyright law. Any unauthorized copying, distribution, or re-uploading is strictly prohibited without written permission. If you enjoyed this journey, please like the video and subscribe for more stories from the edge of the galaxy. Thanks for watching, and stay curious out there among the stars.